Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. And this here's another day, special day. We're going to go through some data governance interview questions. Today, we're going to be more specific on ethics, data governance, ethical considerations. So I promise you we may not spend time, but then I know you people are very knowledgeable. Some questions that may come and your input may prolong it a little bit. Thank you so much. And I like starting with a very, very easy question. For example, we have what is the primary goal of data ethics? What is the main primary goal of data ethics? What do you think is the primary goal of data ethics? Can you hear me, everyone? What is the primary goal of data ethics? Hello, everyone. Anyone hear me from there? What is the primary goal of data ethics?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so what is the primary goal of data ethics? Oh,
Yes. Okay.
Use
The primary goal of data ethics is to strengthen the standards, operational standards, policies and procedures to ensure that the quality of data standards are maintained, to ensure the integrity of data standards are maintained, to ensure that the protection of data are quite secured and maintained, to also ensure that the value of most firms through which these various requirements are of high standards, such that companies or enterprises, stakeholders and other interested parties will not be dissuaded as a result of poor standard of data. So these ethics are all there to maintain a certain set of principles. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a very nice answer as well. So someone else again? Someone else?
one of the ethics, one of the primary goals of data ethics is to promote transparency and accountability in all areas. So in other words, every data related activity must be transparent to all. What's the reason why they're doing what they do, and also fairness. The data that is being used, how are they going to use that data? Is it going to be in a discriminatory form against anyone or anything? So transparency, fairness, and also I think privacy.
Okay. Thank you so much. You're so close to in fact, if not the correct answer, you're so close to it. To be quite honest, the primary goal of data ethics is just to aim to ensure responsible and ethical handling of data, considering what? Privacy, as you said, fairness, transparency, and accountability in its collection, usage, and also sharing. So we must put into consideration those areas of, put into consideration privacy, fairness, transparency, and accountability in the collection of data, even as well as even the usage and the sharing of data. So if you share data, if you don't follow, ethical consideration, what I mean is that the guidelines, the moral guidelines that control our, behavior in handling data, that's what it means. So please take note of that. So when it comes to say data ethics, it's talking about how do we handle data responsibly in an ethical manner. That's what it means. Do we put into consideration data protection in terms of privacy or also security? Is it fair in your handling of it? Are you very transparent in that? What about accountability? Because if you're responsible, you also need to learn how to be more accountable in the use of it in terms of collection and also sharing the same. Is that taking level? So you are very, very close to the answer. And now talking about this, fairness, very important, because talking about fairness, do we have any other person giving any answer to it? Yeah? Or we can just move forward, okay? Now, okay, let's deal with issue of fairness as well. Fairness, like how can organization ensure fairness in data analysis? Now, on this, now we're talking about data analysis. How can someone ensure a fairness in data analysis? Because at this time, it's very important, especially when you want to become a data analyst. So how can someone,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk about, is it going to be used in any discriminatory way? So in other words, what I'm saying is that data that is being used must not be biased, or it must not have bias or discriminatory outcomes. So it must, when you are collecting the data, you need to look at the group of persons you're collecting the data with regards to. Is it promoting equal treatment or equal opportunities for everyone, or is going to be used in some way that will create bad feelings? Say, I will give an example. Too long ago in Nigeria, when they were doing when they do the census tends to favor those from the northern part more than the southern parts. And how were they doing it? They were getting every single person, all the almajiris, they call them, to put their names down for census. And then I heard, had not confirmed, that they were even putting the names of animals inside, like cows and the rest. So in other words, the census results, the census data was never fair in Nigeria. So it was kind of biased because the way it was being collected, there was no transparency, there was no openness, there was no fairness. And it was all in a bid to favor the northern part from the southern parts at that time. I don't know about now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. That's a very good example of it. I think I like the way when you come with example to answer questions, which is really very good. Do we have another person here who could do that? Who could answer the question? And how can organization ensure fairness in data analysis? Don't forget, we're talking about data analysis. You're going to analyze data. So this is where we're coming from. Okay? Another person? Okay. Now, don't forget, we're talking about analysis and the fairness of it. So any enterprise that actually really want to analyze data in a more fair way. Fairness in data analysis involves identifying and mitigating biases, like as if we just explained, okay, ensuring equal treatment, and also considering diverse perspectives in data set and algorithms. So you must understand, you treat data equally, even irrespective of where the source will be, okay? And also, if you want to maintain the standard of your source, or if you want to maintain the standard of treatment, make sure that treatment has to be fair in all ways, in all of your analysis. I say, I don't want to receive data from that data source. I don't want to, or in this data, I don't know. You must also have to treat all data with equal, and also mitigating against biases. Very important. Okay. But when data are not treated equally, so there's going to be a problem in your analysis. Okay. A barrister Mama said, ensuring that the vulnerable are not left out in collection of data. That is absolutely a typical example of, identifying and mitigating against biases. That's very, very good. A typical example. Thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Efe, for the answer. Okay, very important that we get that done. And you are the one who is in charge when it comes to that. Okay? So make sure you treat data fairly. And this is more or less a practical aspect of, your analysis. Practical aspect, how you treat data fairly. Okay? So the next question will be like, what measures can be taken to protect individual privacy in data handling? Individual privacy in data handling. I think everyone should have this answer. So, Omar, you want to have a go?
Yeah, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. What was the question again?
The question is, what measures can be taken to protect individual privacy in data handling?
Oh, what measures in protecting individual privacy in data handling, correct?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
I'm coming. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to phone a friend? Who wants to go first?
Hold on. I'm just thinking it out.
Louis, and your hand is up, Louis. Can you speak where you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Measures that can be taken should be on a need-to-know basis. For every individual data.
Yeah. Thank you. You're talking about.
While we're trying to reach Louis, I can say one. I remember I was asking about anonymity. I can't even pronounce that word.
Anonymization.
Yes, anonymization. So you can remove information that will identify people. So sometimes when we're filling out, I know sometimes when you're filling out some forms online, you can put things like, do you consent or do you not consent? And then sometimes they will say, then a lot of times you don't actually put your name or location. You don't actually put your name or address on whatever you're filling out. So people don't know it has come from you. Another thing is to only retain the data they actually need. So if, for example, I was to go to a place like B&Q to buy something and they want to take my data, they will probably not take my date of birth. They won't take my health records. They will only take the things that concern minimal information.
Mm.
So even if anyone gets hold of my information, they don't really know much about me compared to if I'm giving my information to the NHS or something.
Mm.
So they only retain the minimum amount of data required. In a school, like in a university or in a high school, they take more information from you,
Mm.
even up to your next of kin.
Mm.
But in a place like Next, where I shop for clothes, they
Yeah.
wouldn't take all the information.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways in which they can help protect individuals' privacy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that one too could also be telling do you get consent? So that's the one I talked about, where sometimes when we're filling out forms, they will say, we only do you agree for this to be made public, or do you not agree for it? So they always ask questions. Those are some of the things that they do.
Mm. Thank you. Any other person?
She has almost answered everything because she's talked about anonymization, she's talked about redated information, she's talked about consent, and Madam has almost covered everything.
Okay. Absolutely. So it's actually implementing a encryption and anonymization techniques. So what happens is that data minimization and also strong security protocols are key measures to protect individual privacy. You talk about minimization as well, to minimize the amount of information you collect from the person, and also you can anonymize the data as well. So all of them is a result of implementing encryption somehow in order to have a strong security and privacy protocols to.
But this also comes through policies and procedures.
Yeah, but yeah, if you don't put those things in procedures, so the question that is raised is about if to talk about you can implement it without policies.
Yeah.
In your policy, there's also procedures to carry out that policy.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is about procedure in that policy. You must have a policy that takes care of protecting individual privacy in terms of handling their data as well. So it's very important. So that this is our more or less practical, question that you come from ethical consideration when you are handling data. So it's very important. Okay. All right. So any other person have any question to ask on that or answer to it? Okay.
On the encryption part, not every customer's data has consent for that. The encryption part has to do within the organization itself.
Yeah.
Then the part where the customer has to be concerned about is the one that we actually seek consent to keep such data. So the encryption part of it should be within the organization. That's why I use the term need to know.
Yeah, well, if I have to be questioned, whatever answer that I come in here is actually organization, can be your personal. It's organization.
Okay.
You're working with the organization. That's where the policy comes in. We can't have policy if the organization is not involved. And absolutely, as you just said, that's how it is. You can't do anything if you're not involved, though you are in charge, but the organization is in charge. If anything happens good, it's for the organization. If it hasn't bad, it's the image of the organization. So that's what it means. So now what that leads us to the next question, say, why is transparency important in data usage? Why transparency is important in data usage?
Yeah, it promotes trust.
Yes, I love that.
Promotes quality of service.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other person?
Transparency is to enable implementation to go smoothly in the organizations.
It allows implementation to go smoothly. That's very important as well. I think if it doesn't go smoothly, there cannot be trust, if there's trust, things will be very, very smooth. Okay, like as Louis said. Another person?
Accountability.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when there's trust, there's accountability. I think, let me be very frank with you, the word trust is the biggest word we must use. When we talk about transparency, important. In fact, ordinary definition, Oxford Dictionary definition is very important when you look at the word transparency. And the relevance of it in this case, in context, in data usage, is actually trust. So Barrister Manuel put honesty and robust collection of data. Of course, without honesty, we can't have trust. That's why, I define honesty as the truth. Okay? If you say, oh, this is the truth, okay? But if you are truthful and you do not work in the truth, now, if you understand the truth and you do not work in the truth, there's no integrity. And when there's no integrity, there's no trust. And when there's no integrity, there will not be credibility and there will not be trust. So the thing is that when we say transparency, this is how it is. Openness is one of the pillars of Scrum. Openness, okay? And then openness create trust. Oh, Barrister, your hand is up.
Sorry, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brother Louis, and happy birthday to Pastor. I just want a very good example when it comes to transparency. It's what we have in UK, and in comparison to what we have in Nigeria. You heard about the recent issue they're having in the Senate. They're saying that the budget was padded, and one Mr. Ngigi was suspended. I understand that they're now looking into the matter, in fact, because Falana has actually written to the Senate, although Akpabio is saying he hasn't received the letter, but they're going to review the case. So everyone is aware, even the election that was conducted, everyone knows that it's not transparent. When we're doing election, in fact, in Tower Hamlets, they were complaining that it wasn't transparent enough, and they set up a panel, but in Nigeria, there's nothing like that. So these are examples that we can give, very clear-cut examples of what we can see, and that's why when they are conducting elections, they want everything. I mean, election is just an example, and also even in the National Assembly, you see the way they do things. How can somebody say switch off the mic? Transparency is zero. Accountability, that's the word. Accountability is zero. There's nothing about accountability. You just see that these people are not serious. And elsewhere in other climes, you see the seriousness in ensuring that there's transparency, accountability, honesty, and to ensure that people are carried along. It's only when they're doing election that they will come to you. Oh, they could go to anywhere, to go and bribe them, give them money and whatever. In fact, not even just give them probably 5,000. What is 5,000? You can imagine that. So it's really, I don't like talking about Nigeria. Whenever I talk about Nigeria, tears just rolls down my eyes. Very, very unfortunate and sad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. When you talk about data from the instance you have just given, is about, budget. Budget deals with data, okay? And also like election also deal with data, okay? That's why when in England here, if in Europe here, if there is a election, as soon as the election finish, you will see that the exit poll shows. When they have not finished counting.
I think you're okay with time.
So exit poll shows, and whatever they say, it's just because they have data. When they carry pool, election survey and pool, whatever they say, it reflects. So very, very important. And, so like as you all have known, why transparency important in data usage. It builds trust, as Louis said, and every other person that has complimented him. It builds trust by enabling individuals to understand how their data is being used. By who? By whom? And for what purpose? Always remember that. Because this question is very tricky in a way that, if you're not careful, you may just begin to talk and talk and talk. It doesn't really require too much talk. When you understand openness, then we understand honesty and also trust. So then you can just relate to it why it should happen in terms of data that are being used and by whom you're using the data and for what purpose. So that is just the answer to that. Okay, is that taken? Is that taken?
Yep.
Good. Now, while we're dealing with that, it is important for us to understand that guidelines are very important because you can't be talking about ethics and without guidelines. So what are the risks of not following ethical guidelines in data collection?
That one is very easy. Cost, risk, damages.
What do you mean by cost?
Not following ethical what was the word you used just now? Hello, Pastor, can you hear me?
We
Hello?
try to hear you now. Yeah. It's clear.
Okay.
It's clear now.
Not you following ethical means for data can cost risk, also damages, which in terms of cost damages, I'm talking penalties. Yes, okay, because when it comes to data governance, there are guidelines which every organization should follow. And these are being governed and also being watched and monitored. So if ethics are not being followed, this can cost the company money. I mean, serious damages. And also cost the company loss of reputation, also loss of business as well.
Absolutely. Okay. If you remember the very first training session we had, I brought out a case with Ocean Wise and what most likely to be the consequences if we do not follow policy. Look, yeah. Sorry?
I think maybe you might need to mute him.
I'm trying to mute him, it doesn't go. So really, okay, he's gone now. So I mute him already. Anyway, so
Okay.
another person, please.
Yeah, I was going to say is the opposite of what we were talking about earlier. So there will be not following ethical guidelines will lead to loss of trust.
Yeah.
So in other words, there's no transparency. There will not be any openness.
Yeah, of course.
It will lead to biases and discrimination. Because we talked about what is currently going on in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And we know that a lot of things that have been done, it's purposely to discriminate a certain group and leave a certain group. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's very quick answer.
The other important point again is not following ethical guidelines. It's to erode investors' confidence.
That's correct.
And ensure and making sure that it will devalue the company's chairs in the long run.
Absolutely. That's what Lewis even talk about, corporate image. So once that is affected, then you will now begin to see that stakeholders begin to have problems with the company and shareholders as well. Right on, Momo. I love that. Don't tell me you have finished.
Oh, that shot me.
Yeah.
Okay, then it comes with a lot of not following ethic guidelines. Also comes with a lot of reprimands in forms of companies being fined, consequences in terms of apart from finding them, there are situations where they are put in a certain positions, like in most schools when they don't meet certain standards, or hospitals where they don't meet certain standards, particularly in the UK, they are placed in one. There's a name for them. Where they will now put them under a bigger body or a controlling body that will oversee the applications of the various standards they should be applying.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is absolutely, in fact, everyone that contributed to these questions is very important. So that is why we must always understand the question very well. And you see, it's going to be very easy to answer if you do. Barrister talk about standard must be straight ahead to stakeholders must be carried along in a robust manner. Of course, everyone. You see, when the question are being asked, what are the risks of not following ethical guidelines in data collection? Just as if he said the other time, it's more or less an opposite of the other one, previous questions as well. Absolutely, you're right. Not adhering to ethical guidelines, can lead to breaches of privacy, biases in decision making, erosion of trust, like as you said the other time, and also potential harm to individuals or communities or companies as well, like Louis also said the other time. So these things are very important. Not following.
We also see them happening in credit card companies.
Yeah.
They take decisions based sometimes on sometimes it's discriminating as a particular location because probably that location has more Black people or more white people. So based on how they trade in that area. And then, of course, when you have things like credit card frauds, they tend to discriminate against a particular set of people that they're known for forgery or they're known for fraud. So therefore, we can't give them credit card because our database has shown that people from that particular region or that
just a demographic, yeah.
That particular demographic are known for fraud. So therefore, we cannot do this or we cannot do that. And then, of course, based on that, banks also take decision that, okay, right, because these people in this particular location are known for this, we cannot give mortgage to so people because of A, B, C, and D. So it can lead to, or it can also lead to all that because they've been able to get hold of that particular database from that credit card company. So they use that to now go with the flow from whatever they want to do.
Yeah. But
irrespective of the fact, irrelevant of the fact that that person might not even be involved in what has gone on in the past.
This now become bias.
Or even if they've gone through that process in the past, they're now a changed individual. They now have a better paying job. So they can now go out to do things. But because of the past, they now use it to discriminate against.
So what do you think they can do to mitigate against that?
So again, it's the same thing is by making sure that they keep to the standard and guidelines of.
What do you think if you are to drive that policy and also take into consideration standards and guidelines? What do you have? Is anything to change?
Making sure that when you, what I think they can, so we give consent as to whether our details should be shared or not shared. So, but
apart from that, if you are to drop policy on that, knowing fully whether they have kind of stigmatized the demograph to be like that for a considerable period of time. So you are a new employee. So you have come to look at the records from history and using a empirical formula, timeline in terms of how long that data has been collected. What would you do in order to mitigate against any bias on that?
I suppose we could do a database cleansing.
Okay, but before you do the cleansing of a team, because the thing is okay, Barrister Emmanuel, your hand is up. Maybe you want to help on this question?
Yes, thank you, Pastor, for that, because I just wanted to speak on what CEO said and your response. That was really good, because at the end of the day, we have to be fair when we're answering questions like this.
Absolutely.
The reason they came up with the decisions to actually to say that some areas or some group of people are like that is because of the data that were collected.
That's correct.
Also, there were also facts that some people, I mean, we're not saying it's all of them, but in fact, it's like some insurance companies. You can imagine where an area where they steal cars a lot, an area where they burn cars. In fact, there's a certain area that the person know what I'm talking about. They used to steal cars then and burn the cars in that area. So you can't actually expect such a place, you know, to have lower insurance than areas that they don't be premium. You know, so we have to really balance this up. And we actually found out that some of those areas over the years, things had actually improved because they look at the data. In fact, there was a building in Thamesmead that the entire building was
owned by one person.
It was owned by one. You use, in fact, different fake passports. And guess what? The person is from our side. You can imagine that. In fact, the person was actually a medical doctor. They had to run to America. They got mortgage. When they got them, in fact, that was the time you can get 110 mortgage. You know, they only paid for 1 month. And at the end of the day, the money, they ran away with the money. So it is very important that we actually balance these things up when we are in an interview or when we're answering questions.
So that's what the question now I cannot impose. You almost get you actually brought an answer. Before you get to that answer, what would you do as an employee who has the expertise to get to that level of, you know, over time things are changing? What would you do?
Yeah, what I would do, like she was saying, you know, and that is actually what has been done over the years, to review the data.
That is what I want to say. That's what I want to hear. Review. So we as someone who has you look at the data already collected over a considerable period of time, and decision that inform their decision making concerning the demographic. So you have to look. Let me look. You have to reevaluate. That's where evaluation taking place. So their evaluation is the review that takes place. Has it changed? Where has it changed? Where is the area? You're talking about crime scene, crime areas, very high crime area. People do review. In fact, how often will somebody who have to do that review? You also have to ensure that in the policy.
Yeah, sorry. A very good example to use is these credit companies. You know, I sent this something recently. I'll probably send it on this how to improve one's credit. You know, 5 ways to improve one's credit. And I have actually noticed that I think the you know, we have Equifax, we have anyway, we have different companies.
Hello? Okay. All right, you've gone. So anyway, I think you join us. That is what happens. So like all the answer you have given, all the
God, sorry, I thought I was speaking.
No,
hello?
You muted yourself. So
hello?
You can speak now. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I thought I was speaking. I was saying Equifax, Experian, and some other credit companies. That's actually a very, very good example. I noticed that the moment you open an account, the moment you buy something that is very substantial, like car, you get a mortgage. In fact, your credit just drops, or you get an overdraft. You know, and they always encourage that you get a credit card and pay before the yes. Yeah. So you could see that they actually evaluate and review, the data they've got from time to time.
Absolutely, that's what is expected as an employee who has the expertise. You have been employed with human capacity. The company will expect you to add value to their corporation, and knowing fully where their corporate objectives, aim then objectives to achieve. They will expect you to say, oh, okay, what value can you add to this? You have to detect the problems existing in some areas and think about the best way you can create atmosphere that area could be, there could be solution preferred to get things done. And that is the key. That is the key. You are always going to be up and doing anytime. So that's very good. Evaluation is very important. When you do evaluate, always remember monitoring it as well, whether you're going to meet up with the standard, so that the best practice has to be ensured. That's good. That's very good, because don't forget that not adhering to ethical guidelines can lead to breaches of privacy, biases in decision-making, erosion of trust, and also potential harm to individuals or communities that are part of stakeholders. So then we're talking about bias in decision making. How do you address biases in data sets? How do you, or would you, address biases in data set?
Transparency, honesty, those are some of the things we just said.
Another person?
Making sure people are aware by probably educating them, training.
Training, that's very good. That's very good. Training them on what?
On the data, making like what we're talking about now, training them on data biases, making sure they review data properly, and things like that, and making sure whatever they put on there is open, is transparent. Making sure that whatever you put on there is you are accountable for whatever goes on to that database. So even if you see something that doesn't look right, you make sure you're accountable to it, so that it's not when they ask you, they say, well, it's not my business. Someone else is the one who's put it on there, so nothing to do with me.
Oh, yeah.
To be accountable.
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons they have, in terms of training and awareness, each organization or established organization must have training for equality and diversity.
Diversity, 2010 as well.
Yeah, Equality Act 2010 and Human Rights Act 1998.
It's very important. Human Rights 1998.
1998. Although now that we're no longer in EU, but it's still there anyway.
But it's still binding.
Then the UN Convention 1951.
Yeah. So you put it on the chat box so that people could always get everything on that, because it's very important. Okay. All right. So because the reason why we need to be talking about dealing with bias in terms of data sets, it will help us in decision making, so that it will ensure that there will not be erosion of trust and integrity of data. So addressing bias involves comprehensive data validation. When you are when you are transparent and you are undergoing analysis of data, it is expected that you have a comprehensive data validation right from the onset and even after your analysis. You need to have what is called diverse data set curation. allow them to cure, to see whether they meet the standard, and also employ algorithms that are, are sensitive to and also mitigate against, bias. And that can be seen where enshrined in the policy that meet up with the corporate goals and objectives set up by the enterprise itself. So it's very important you get that, because in most cases in ethical consideration, in terms of practical, practical experience in handling data as a data head on data governance, and you employ stewards, so you are expected to understand how to address bias in terms of data sets. Okay, so that being said, can data be ethically collected without explicit consent?
Yes.
Okay, this question is how
And no.
somehow.
Yes and no.
So your
I think
yes.
I think we once addressed this question a couple of weeks.
So let's talk about it. It's because it's because that day I know you said no.
Yes, exactly.
But now you
yes.
said yes. So barrister is saying yes or no. So
Both.
however it comes.
No,
I have,
even Barrister contributed by saying,
yeah,
No,
however,
I said both.
by remaining on the other side of the.
yeah, he
Yes.
was the other side of it.
Yes.
So now when you say yes,
He's added both of them now, yeah.
So this is where it comes, that is where experience comes in. When you will tell someone you are expert in data and you govern data, and when a question like this be imposed on you, they just want to see the practical aspect of it, how you have actually, carry out. This is not only just theoretical. Sometimes you can convert all theoretical analysis into practical action, because people come from the practice aspect of it. They know you're an expert. All right. So how will you do that? Can data be ethically collected without explicit, consent?
Yeah, following on from the last discussion.
Yeah.
On this question, I am keen to accept that data can be collected without the explicit requirements, such that you may not necessarily have need the consent of the individual or persons. And many reasons have been adduced from the last section for this. One of the important reason is for health and safety involving the individual, where it is considered and where it is known that this individual will suffer some form of damage, death, anything that will affect the individual. Then, of course, they will carry on whatever they need to do without the person's implicit consent. Other one is backed by law, where if such person is a threat to the state, such that if he's a terrorist, the state may not consider the individual's consent important, such that they will need to carry out what they need to do to prevent the state from being terrorized. Environmentally too, individuals' consent may not be necessary if it means that if it shows or it can be proven that the individual constitutes some form of danger to the environment, and they may have to just carry out things that will prevent the individual from carrying on with those activities. I think that's what I have.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a good example. You should be very proud of yourself anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you should be a panel to interview people at this point.
No, I'm not graduated to that level now.
Any other person? Any other person? The question is that, can data be ethically collected without explicit consent? Okay, as almost said the other time, we have YouTube, we have YouTube video on this. This question had come before. Someone went to an interview about 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago. The question came in. Okay, and the person told me, you see that question that came that time? Oh, I played with it, so that was why I couldn't answer it properly. That's why you see me have to bring it up again. Okay, it can happen to any other person. Okay, so it's very important. All right, so under specific circumstances, such as public interest or legal requirements, data collection without explicit consent might be permissible. But
yes,
ethical guidelines must be followed strictly. So we're talking about, it could be no, but okay, Efe, your hand is up.
So during the coronavirus period, the data was collected, even without individuals' consent, just because they wanted to make sure that the epidemic does not spread everywhere. Absolutely. So they were collecting people's data and they were making it public without any consent whatsoever, because they were trying to prevent that pandemic from taking over the whole world at that time. So that was one instance where you had no say in the data that was collected.
That is under specific circumstances. It's just like as Omo has said. But I remember Barrister said a lot the other time. What about if incapacitation taking place by someone whose data will be collected? What will happen? I ask this question, very important.
As long as there's legitimate backing.
From where?
Some legal, on the person's part.
From the court.
From the court, yes.
And there must be evidence. It's not about just a claim that, oh, this person is not capable to take decisions. And there must be evidence. Where would they get the evidence from?
From whoever is treating that person.
Okay, medical doctors, certified medical doctor personnel, certified personnel who are able to ascertain the incapability of such person before court. On that specific circumstances, there could be, there could be legal decision-making to ensure that that could be permitted to be collected. So, that is why barrister need to come in to talk about social and health-wise legal requirement for such anyway. So
yeah, so I think we spoke about getting an order from the court.
From the court. That's
and also there are, in terms of from the social point of view, where you have vulnerable children and adults, there are also set standards that must be adhered with, in terms of ensuring, especially when someone's life is in danger, where you can actually get, like in the medical field. Then we spoke about an American case, and also we have cases. We even spoke about Jehovah's Witnesses,
of course,
blood transfusion, where it's between life and death, and where you don't have the consent or probably the next of kin. or the family, someone to actually, or where the person does not have the capacity,
to take
to make such a decision, and that's why we always, from the social work point of view, we always encourage people that have dementia or people that don't have capacity to always have what we call a lasting power of attorney, LPA.
Okay.
So that we have LPA for health and well-being, and also for finance. Some have for both. Some they just have all the three. Anyway, health and well-being are actually classified as one, because you can't speak of health without well-being.
Yeah.
Then we have finance. For some, they have for both. Then some they have for just only finance, or because there are some people that when they are aging, they can still make decisions on their health and well-being, but in terms of finance, their cognition may be such that they struggle.
That's true.
To make decision with their financial. Yes, thank you.
I haven't known. Thank you for that answer. I haven't known the concept of EPA before. It's very.
They do it. They do it mostly for vulnerable people. In the last 3 months, when the social services requested they needed to do LPA for my daughter.
Okay.
We were fighting it. I said no, we're not doing nothing, because I didn't understand the concept.
Okay.
And until I went through and understood what the concept is all about, because I was thinking
you only knew, if I'm not making mistake, if I understood you completely, you only knew 3 months ago.
Yeah, about 3 months ago.
No, I'm just knowing you for the first time. Thank you, Barrister.
Yeah. At some point, almost all vulnerable parents with vulnerable children will be required to do LPA at some point.
Absolutely. In fact, do you know why this training is the best?
Yeah.
You could see how we learn every day. It's not just data. In fact, like we've previously said, data governance management, covers virtually everything. So you could see what we are learning from here.
Yeah.
It's not just what we have. Our remit covers a spectrum of virtually everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barrister, for that effect. Because this morning I was seriously teaching. I have prepared all the training done, but only one question I asked. And people were defining it from example, defining it a lot of things. And this time it's management. It's actually management, questions, more or less like conflict resolutions in terms of where you work, and especially dealing with unreasonable people. I only ask a question: what is a reasonable person? Who is a reasonable person? It took more than an hour, to the point that, and I gave them, one of my definitions. They said I was prompted immediately, I should put it on the chat box. Then I gave them another comprehensive, what's it called, definition. In fact, after reading it, some people said they will put it in a card form in their pocket. Even people started confessing, to the point that they now realize almost all of them in that training, they are very unreasonable. On practical terms, that shows the impact. You see the same thing as this training. To be quite honest, there are things that we think we know, we do not know them until we see them, we hear them. And when you are asked a question, you know how you relate. And even when you say like, EPA, the interviewer are going to ask you, what do you understand by EPA? You just have to tell the person it means elastic power of attorney, when it comes to vulnerability and different kind of level of vulnerability. So that means you have come to learn something. This is about data. So, and that becomes a very part of your, economic value you're adding to any enterprise. That's very good. My last question here, before I deal with an issue, would be that how can data ethics be integrated?
Sorry, Pastor. Omar was saying something that he didn't actually know the rationale behind making the LPA compulsory. There were actually a lot of cases where they were in a situation that, you know, it was really difficult to carry out some things or to make some decision. And that was actually why they said, you know what, they have to make it compulsory for all vulnerable children to have an LPA and also vulnerable adults.
Yeah.
So is it going to be very imposing on the parents or
Not imposing, they encourage, of course, yes, because they try to make it compulsory, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a situation that you will say, oh, I didn't know that you could just make decision on my behalf.
Exactly.
Without, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it just
Even
like
if
it's
you
not going to
the
be
parents-
imposing, is it just going to act as an information?
No, even if you the parents refuse,
Yes.
they will do it without your consent.
Yes. That is the idea.
They will do it without your consent. They
Basically,
will tell you straight.
whether you say yes or no.
No, they will do it without your consent.
So that means like telling you
Because
just
they've given
the
them
purpose
prior
of the
notice.
awareness is the purpose of awareness or information.
No, they've actually told them before. They've told them before, yes.
Exactly. They've told you, like they wrote to me. I responded to them because they wanted certain details. They needed my details or my wife's details. And I told them I wasn't giving them anything, that they all have my daughter's details in their database. They said no. They want our details. You know, at a point the council lawyers wrote to us and said, look, if you don't send us your details, we'll simply go to court. And I asked the judge to give approval for it, and that's it. So we looked at it. We said, okay. We just looked at it, and I just sent the necessary details, and that was it. Because initially, people have a very wrong misconception about it in terms of, because when the council is asking for these things, first and foremost, people think the council is trying to audit you as the individual, as the primary carer of your child, in terms of finances, in terms of their well-being, in terms of all that stuff, you know. But I looked at it, I said, there's nothing to hide. The child is okay, no abuses, no. So what's there to be scared of? I just send the details off, and that's it. The story.
It's good to know this.
Yeah.
And good to know this. Thank you for your contribution and for those information. Okay. So I'm going on the last question that I will ask here is, you know, how can data ethics be integrated into business practices?
That's a tricky question.
It's not just, we'll be talking about ethics now. So how can we integrate all what we'll be saying into?
I think it's via education, training, and by the policies that are in place, such that stakeholders are aware of what ethics should be. Implementators are also aware of what ethics should be. Every area or segment of the enterprise should also understand what ethics should be, because without ethics, professionalism is eroded. Without ethics, trust is eroded. And without ethics, stakeholders' investments in terms of values to whatever they've invested, including costs, will all be eroded. So,
okay. Now, thank you so much. That's a very, very good answer. So we can do better. First of all, I can lead you to answer. If you're just employed, you're just employed for the first time, whether first of all, they have to tell you that they have a data governance in place, data program in place, governance program in place. So when you are employed as data governance manager, what's the first thing you will do?
the first things I will do is to go through what they have, what the existing data governance program they have already.
How will you go through it?
I'll go through okay.
Before you go
Let
through,
me say I will.
before you go through, what do you think you will do, Fred? What do you think?
I will hold functional meetings with all the relevant
But
departments.
before you go to that extent, the first thing you will do or you are expected to do, what will you say? Talk about. What can you say about that?
Okay. Probably I will need to go through their books.
No, before you go through their books, you can't just go there and say, oh, I'm employed, I'm going through your books. How would that be? What will you do? You need, as a data governance manager, can anybody help in this, please?
Yeah, I think you do the 30, 60, and 90-day roadmap first of
So
all.
you have to talk about roadmap.
Mhm.
Amon?
Oh yeah.
Roadmap. Okay.
Okay.
You jump one to another.
Okay.
You jump a level of the roadmap to another one. So that's why I say if you can get that roadmap, then you will know what to do first. So
Okay.
can someone tell us the roadmap?
So you would you will first start by assessing what their current state is.
Okay, the assessing, are you talking about not assessment, you're talking about access?
Yes. So, well, yeah, okay, access and assessing what they've got, because you need to identify what existing policies or practices are already in place before you can go on to in place relating to data ethics before you can go on to identify any areas or gaps which need improvement. So you need to access and then assess.
Yeah, so Amo, you understand that now?
Yeah.
You must have an access first. If you are not granted an access, you cannot carry out what you said, assessment of the current situation. Because I know you are talking about you have to, look at their current stage. Of course, it's important, but if you do not have a roadmap, and that roadmap also require you to have an access before you can assess.
True.
So, all right. So that is very important, and they expected you to get that within 30 days.
Okay.
Sometimes it could be more than that because I know somebody who actually got a job as a data governance. 6 months down the line, he hasn't even have an assessment. He just collecting money.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing to someone.
I would like that kind of job.
And the person decided, the person now applied for another job elsewhere, and the person left because they were bored.
No, he's still there. He's still there. I will tell him to come to. I will tell him to come and tell you his experience.
No, I will just remain there and keep quiet.
Yeah, he's just collecting money, but he's actually doing another data governance job as well. So he's just still there. So the basic thing is that the reason why the company they have problem, really big problem. The thing is that they just want to showcase that they have data governance manager as part of their, organizational structure to tell their clients that they are well structured because they have someone who govern our data. Meanwhile, they don't really want him. They haven't given him access to every functional department. So you cannot definitely assess them because they know that the budget will be stretched. And also, with the data owner and stewards, especially data owner, don't want to take responsibility and accountability how he won't really want to come in. So I think they are indirectly telling him that I know we have employed you for a reason, very best known to them, but actually your work will begin next fiscal year in terms of their budget and expenditure. So that could come. But if you want to hit the ground, they need to give you access. When you go to company, first thing they give you access to wherever you can. Okay? And then you have to carry an assessment. So this is how it is. I always said that anyway. It's not I'm not talking about that as the answer to the question that I have asked. I only ask that question in order to help you. I have to repeat the question again. If you're speaking.
I was going to say, based on what you were saying, but there are some organizations that will tell you that you're coming in in a brownfield environment,
Yeah.
but it's actually a greenfield because there's nothing in place. But they've only just given that impression that it's a brownfield environment.
Yeah.
And I was also going to say that I would love that kind of place because it's enjoyment galore. Just wake
So
up. Here.
yeah, so on that basis, because on that basis you have to negotiate your salary because you have a lot of work to do on that properly. Anyway, let's move on that because I only brought that question in order to help you answer the next question.
Yeah.
How can data ethics be integrated into business practices?
I think Mr. Omo was already answering that question also. Okay, that was before.
No, I was already answering the question when Pastor and corrected me on the approach.
Okay, I think businesses can implement data ethics through training and education again.
Yeah.
So making sure all the employees at all levels of the organization are aware about data ethics, promoting ethical decision making and all that. And that will again involve all the key stakeholders and being transparent, making sure people are accountable. We're talking about transparency and accountability all through this training. So making sure people are transparent about whatever data activities they are providing, and making sure people are accountable for not just their own actions, but everyone else's action because one affects the other in a way. So I think there are some of the ways in which businesses can implement data ethics into their organizations or business practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I know before who else again can tell me? Has anybody got anything to say about that again?
Let's do a little bit of thinking.
Sorry?
I said, let's do a little bit of thinking.
We're trying to access the information from our brains and then we'll access it later on.
Actually, it's good. It's good to have that done.
I think data ethics can also be integrated into business practices via policies, such that policies are made towards encouraging the application of data ethics, formulating them, ensuring that it is transparent enough and certain standards are met. Then again, other ethical integration can also come from external bodies, such that what's this?
Thank you. You
I'm
have
having.
You have tried. You very, very, but you actually hit the nail on the head. I just wanted to understand that it's a very big question, very, very big question. You see, you are now saying that you know something about, you are a practical oriented person, and actually you know what is called the moral principle guiding data acquisition and data, processing analysis, and also as well as, integrity is concerned about data. So no problem. Now that being said, how can that data ethics you have known be integrated into business practices? So it's very important is by embedding ethical considerations, which is the moral standard in which behavior of the entire enterprise have to follow in order to meet up the high integrity of data that is required. So when you have this ethical consideration into policies, which of course Omo has said as well, conducting regular ethical. You see, the word there, ethical, is very important. Ethical assessment, which of course what Omo has said, but you can have assessment without having an access. So in the beginning when you come in, so in your policy, you must regularly put those ethical assessment at different intervals, because you have to have an interval. What are the intervals of your assessment to ensure that best practice is being followed in order to eliminate something that is not too good in terms of standard operating principles. So that's what exists when the differential that exists between the management practice and best practice. So if you continue to conduct regular ethical assessment and fostering a culture that values and prioritizes ethical data handling, you definitely will already embedded into the corporate goals and objectives of the business. So the first thing when you carry an assessment, look at things that are nowhere right. Then you know how to put them right, and you enshrine into the corporate goals at the aims and objectives of the business itself. How can you do that? Policies are very important. Policies that we stipulate the procedure on how to conduct ethical assessment irregularly. That is, I don't know how the interval depends on the complexity of data you're handling anyway. So, and also, like as if it said, you need to have a culture of understanding and value by training people, creating awareness, and prioritize on how to prioritize ethical data handling is very important. Train people, let them understand what it takes. So in most cases, you cannot just do that without carrying. First of all, we're talking about, in all what we're doing is about data integrity. Okay, so if you want to have data integrity, you must carry a data quality practice assessment and project planning tools. So you create a criteria, and you also have to have standard in which you measure how good your data you want your data to be. So, and especially when you get to that level, you're talking about capability maturity model integration process. So what do you do that? You have to have a scale or the criteria you want to put in, ensuring that you have a very high quality of data in terms of data quality maturity. You have to have a scale of what threshold would it be before we say it's matured or optimized. So if you can see what I'm sharing, you could see that in practice, this is things you could easily say you do to make sure in practice. In any case, when you are required to do anything, please, I'm ready to give you every information that you want to have in helping yourself. So first of all, if you look at this, what I'm sharing is to assess quality maturity. Rubosaka Data Academy uses the capability maturity model integration program to for rating capabilities on scale of 1 to 5. So right now you have said some measure in which you have set a scale in which you can measure how powerful the quality of your data would be. So on that basis, don't forget that what are you going to measure? That the components of data governance. So in this one, meeting business needs. So the question that comes in, the last question I said, is about how will you incorporate, how will you incorporate ethical consideration into the business practice? So it has to meet business needs. The business need is to optimize. Optimize it by maximizing profit out of the value, the margin, the profit margin you create, which is the value, by minimizing cost and ensuring also the integrity of the data. So we need to ask ourselves in your assessment whether if business understand the value of data quality and actively participate in a champion or champions data quality initiatives that you are creating. So the answer will be yes or no, or maybe your scale, yes, optimize is 5. But in your reassessment, what would it be? Data quality vision, is it fully aligned to corporate vision or mission or strategies? That is a question. You need ethics to get that done. You need policy to get this thing done. Does the quality of data outcomes meet business expectation? If it's not, what will you do? Policies is very important in all these things, and procedures. Okay? And when you want to talk about data quality plans are in place to support the business units, yes or no? If it's not yes, what can you do? You set a target. That's where, if you talk about roadmap. So what's the roadmap to make sure things are there? What are the gaps that are existing? So how can you ensure things are being done? All these things goes with ethics. And there is no thing you're going to bring out from here without you really, put things in place in order to ensure that those gaps are kind of, covered by ensuring that whatever you want to do into the corporate policy and then also into the corporate objectives, aims, and corporate aims and objectives of the business itself. So it's very important. I think I will find another day to talk more about this, the governance aspect of it, the policy procedure and standard of the same, and also rules and responsibility of organizational structure, and also probably oversight communication when it comes to that and how to deal with it, and also talk about the data quality of different data types, and also data handling and remediation competencies. So after that being done, I will probably move to, the data quality practice scorecard. We're not going to be using, probably we might, depends, using a balance scorecard in all these things, but from what you have assessed and the gap that exists and what you can do to mitigate against it and setting a target, all that will be visualized. And then with what has been visualized, it will be so easy for the stakeholder and the chief executive to have a domain to which they take their decisions, and also ensure corporate investment on whatever target you have set. And also date of resolving issues that are pending based on the different components of data quality initiatives that you may carry out, which of course talking about the practice roadmap, okay? And also maybe prioritizing business unit. This is where that question ultimately coming from, okay? And of course, after that, you talk about the roadmap of the project completely, so you know what to do. So we will have time to treat that in more comprehensive to answer that question, because the ultimate aim of everything is just to make sure you embed ethical considerations into policies and conducting regular ethical assessment and fostering a culture within the company that values and prioritize ethical data handling. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Have we learned something today?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. What have you learned? I'm asking everybody.
Data is about transparency and accountability a lot of times, and making sure the right relevant people are involved.
Good. Yeah. Amor, you were to say something?
For me, it's all about ethics and trust, such that you can't separate both of them. Without ethics, stakeholders' investment and interests will be eroded, and without trust, there will be chaos in the workplace. So I've learned that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other person?
Good day, sir. Exactly what Mr. Omo said. I've learned about the ethical standards that is necessary before implementing a data governance program, considering the ethical state of the data is important.
Thank you. Barrister?
Equality, diversity, LPA, that is lasting power of attorney.
That is me that have learned that, not you. You taught us that. Yeah. You are normal. They taught us that. So what else again, Barrister?
We've touched on the others. The importance of transparency, honesty, adhering to standards, and to ensure that when we're collecting data, there's room for review, and reevaluation to ensure that the data are up to date, in order not to edge out some people that are actually entitled to some benefits or whatever that they are meant to get, or even reduction in probably their interest rate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And next week Saturday is really big open day. And please ensure that